This marks the 5th part of the 2nd season of this manhwa. If you haven't viewed the previous parts, you can access it by clicking the I button located above, or the link is provided in description. Let's aim for 200 likes on today's video. To show your support, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's begin our recap video for today's manhwa. A short while later, Major and Han arrived at the underground facility beneath Ark. Han thought it was a common joke among the soldiers of Ark. As they moved inside, Han's eyes widened in surprise, thinking it was beyond his imagination. At that moment, Alexander Quarry approached Han and offered to guide him. Han addressed him as Chief of Staff. As they moved further inside, Alexander scanned his hand for the door to open. A system message confirmed his identity and permitted entrance. The high-security door opened, and Han followed Alexander down the corridor. After walking for a short while, Han questioned, "So what is the matter? I believe I am not allowed access to this area." Alexander confirmed Han's suspicion, acknowledging that access was restricted. However, Alexander explained that there was someone who urgently wanted to meet Han, even if it meant breaking the rules, as this person did not have much time left. A short while later, they reached a room at the end of a corridor. Alexander announced, "We're here, Han. The person you're about to meet is Ark's second commander to date. His name is Jurgen." Upon hearing the name, Han was visibly surprised, with sweat appearing on his face. Alexander then opened the door, and both of them entered the room. An old man with silver-white hair, who named Jurgen, was sitting in a chair and welcomed them, asking, "Are you Han?" He then instructed Han to come closer. Nervously, Han observed Jurgen's frail condition, noticing a drip attached to his hand as he sat in the chair. Jurgen reassured him, saying, "There's no need to be nervous." As Han approached, Jurgen extended his hand and grabbed Han's hand. Suddenly, red psychic energy emanated from Jurgen's hand, forming a cage of red rays around both of them. Inside this cage, Han appeared to be 10 years old. Surprised, Han asked, "What is this?" Jurgen remarked, "This is the place within you, and that's your true self. You've calmed down quickly. Truly, it's just as I've heard. Though you may be young, you really are incredible. Has your environment molded you that way?" Attempting to grab Han's head with his other hand, Jurgen added, "Would you let me take a look inside?" Han released his grip and leaped out of the red rays cage. In shock, he crashed into the room wall. Alexander asked Han, "What are you doing?" Meanwhile, Alexander, sweating profusely, asked Jurgen, "What have you done?" in a startled tone. Alexander then exclaimed, "How dare you?" Jurgen interrupted Alexander's outburst calmly, saying, "It's all right, Chief. That's an expected reaction from him. He's sensitive and has thick walls on his mind. Even I cannot peer inside." Upon hearing this, Han remarked, "So, the only person at Ark with telepathic abilities, and the one who interrogated the Elismage, was you, sir." Jurgen turned towards Han with a smile and affirmed, "Now that I've seen you in person, I'm sure of it. I can entrust you with the 2nd-generation psycho frame." Han was taken aback, thinking, "Second generation?" Jurgen then requested, "I feel tired now. Would you mind leaving?" As they left the room, Han asked, "Does Commander Jurgen have psychological issues?" Alexander snapped back, "That's none of your business. You will not disclose anything you've seen today." Han quickly responded, "Of course. I just wanted to confirm it, that's all. He has injuries from restraints on his wrists. On top of that, the doors to his room lock from the outside. It seems the time frame when the commander can maintain his sanity is quite limited. That's why his wrists are usually cuffed." Alexander interrupted him angrily, shouting, "Stop. Don't mention any more. Do you want to brag about how smart you are?" Then, regaining his composure, Alexander responded, "It's as you've said. He's been tortured for a long time. The commander's time is extremely limited in terms of maintaining his sanity. Within those short periods, He analyzes the documents and decides the course of action for Ark. He spent his precious time on you today. Do you know what that means? The second-generation psycho frame allows a reinforced soldier to fight against the dragons on an equal footing. To put it differently, reinforced soldiers are just as much of a threat to humankind as dragons. Han reflected on how Jurgen Teller had wanted to discern whether he posed a threat to humans. Alexander acknowledged that whatever decision was made had been incredibly difficult. Han agreed, noting the weight placed on a child who had just turned 10 years old. Upon hearing this, Alexander was visibly surprised, remarking that Han was rubbing salt into his wound by reminding him of the responsibility entrusted to children despite his role as chief of staff. Internally, Alexander considered that perhaps they had been searching for a superhuman like Han all along, someone they could rely on unconditionally despite the immense burden placed upon them. Finally, Alexander announced that they were leaving. A few days later, in a desert near a canyon, soldiers and researchers were gathered. Kurt sat with other psykers on a bench under the shade of a tent, complaining loudly about the intense heat. He exclaimed that he couldn't even step 1 foot outside of the shade due to the scorching temperature. Dell, annoyed by Knut's complaints, told him to sit still. Knut retorted that he would be bored if he did, prompting Dell to threaten to throw him off the cliff. Meanwhile, Han reflected that they were in the middle of the North African desert, a place historically associated with the appearance of the fourth dragon. Han reflected on what Alexander had mentioned before their mission. The fourth dragon was capable of emitting powerful destructive rays. Due to that, many deep canyons were formed. The people in that area refer to them as the Dragon Canyons, and apparently, a fossil that seems to be of a dragon has been recently found there. That thing is much older than human history. His thoughts were interrupted by Knut, who remarked, "Hey, silence. Aren't you hot? You're wearing that helmet in such intense heat." Silence sent a message to Knut, stating, "I had the Department of Research put in an air conditioning device before we left, and with a portable battery." Knut reacts with surprise and excitement upon hearing air conditioning device is in Silence mask, shouting, "Lend it to me," as he swiftly moves towards Silence. However, Silence responds abruptly by kicking Knut away, causing him to crash onto the ground. Meanwhile, Han, sitting nearby, expresses his desire aloud, stating firmly, "I want to go back to Ark." Shortly afterward, a group of researchers approaches the group, commenting on the intense heat and casually asking if anyone could accompany them down the canyon. As the discomfort caused by the heat, none of Han's teammates volunteer, opting to remain seated in the shade of the tent. Observing his teammates sweating profusely, Han sighs with a sense of responsibility and steps forward. Han addresses the researchers, volunteering himself without hesitation, stating, "I'll go," and begins to move towards them. In that moment, Silence also communicates that he will join, expressing his dissatisfaction with the arrangement, stating, "It's just supposed to be 2 people per group. I'm not hot." As they descend into the canyon via an elevator, Han and Silence join a group consisting of 3 local soldiers and 5 researchers. Upon reaching the underground area, they illuminate their torches and proceed towards their destination. As they approach a large fossil, Han is visibly astonished by its size, his eyes widening in shock. He remarks aloud, "The sheer size of it. If this is actually a dragon, it will be in the same class as the behemoth." One of the researchers, intrigued by Han's assessment, asks him if he can confirm whether the fossil is indeed that of a dragon. In response, Han reaches out and touches the fossil with his left hand, activating his psychic energy. As Han's psychic energy interacts with the fossilized dragon arm, the researchers are astonished to witness it start glowing in response. The intensity of Han's psychic output increases, but soon he begins to struggle as he depletes his energy reserves. Recognizing Han's distress, Silence acts quickly and pulls him away from the dragon's fossil. Han catches his breath, visibly exhausted and sweating heavily, while expressing gratitude to Silence for his timely intervention. Meanwhile, one of the researchers, a woman, reacts with excitement at the revelation, exclaiming, "Incredible! It really was a dragon skeleton. Leave the rest to us." As Han and Silence prepare to leave the area, Han is left contemplating the implications of their discovery. He ponders aloud, "Impossible. If that's a dragon fossil, it means dragons had already existed before humanity." Amidst the examination of the dragon fossil, one of the researchers inadvertently steps on something unfamiliar on the ground. Curious, he kneels down to inspect it while his colleagues inquire about his discovery. He responds casually, "I stepped on something," before reaching out to touch the mysterious object, wondering aloud, "What is this?" Suddenly, a chilling scream pierces the air, causing everyone present to turn towards the source. Concerned, the fellow researchers rush to his side, anxiously asking, "What's going on?" To their horror, they discover that the researcher's hand is being consumed by the strange object he touched. In intense pain, the researcher pleads desperately, "Someone, please take this thing off of me." Amid the chaos and urgency, the researchers observe in horror as the strange object grows larger by the second, prompting them to call for assistance from the local soldiers. Without hesitation, the soldiers open fire on the rapidly expanding entity. However, Han arrives on the scene and shouts a grim realization, "It's too late. It's already swallowed him whole." Everyone, get on the elevator immediately. As they rush towards the elevator to escape, one of the researchers curses in shock, exclaiming, "That's a death worm. How the hell is it still alive?" Han, recalling his training at Ark, quickly processes the danger they're facing, realizing, "Death worm. According to what I learned at Ark, it'll soon become a pupa, in order to transform." Amid urgent shouts from the soldiers urging an immediate retreat, Han steps up and takes command. He activates his watch's communication device and issues clear and decisive orders. "Izzy Squad, can you hear me, everyone? Arm yourselves and get ready for battle. Our opponent is a single death worm that's about to transform into its second form." On the other hand, the death worm hatched out unexpectedly fast, catching Han and the researchers off guard. Han reacts swiftly, observing the emerging threat and realizing, "That was fast. It's already hatched." Immediately, he directs everyone towards the elevator, urging them to move quickly. The researchers, visibly frightened by the sudden turn of events, scramble to follow Han's lead. However, the deathworm manages to leap onto the elevator, initiating a ferocious attack that sends everyone into a panic. Despite the chaos, Han remains composed, standing calmly amidst the turmoil as he assesses the situation. The deathworm relentlessly attempts to breach the elevator, intensifying the fear among those trapped inside. Recognizing the need to reassure and maintain order, Han turns to the researchers and shouts firmly, "Calm down, please. We're almost at ground level." As the elevator reaches the ground level, Han immediately takes charge, broadcasting a command to his squad through his watch. "Everyone, listen up. We must determine the bastard's movements and behead it as soon as possible. We must avoid losses at all costs. If someone dies, the bastard's evolution will speed up tremendously." Upon arrival, Han swiftly issues another order. "Target has arrived. Everyone, move." Knut takes the lead, charging forward bravely with Dmitri and Derek following closely behind. Knut opens fire on the death worm to draw its attention, but the bullets fail to inflict any visible damage. Undeterred, Knut discards his gun and charges directly at the death worm, grappling with its head despite sustaining injuries. His healing abilities mitigate the damage to a manageable extent, allowing him to maintain his hold. In a painful effort, Knut calls out to Dmitri, instructing him to grab hold of the death worm's tail to immobilize it further. Following Dmitri's rush towards the death worm's tail, he envelops himself in psychic energy to secure a firm grip, effectively immobilizing the creature from the rear. Meanwhile, Del manipulates the airbits, maneuvering Derek above the death worm. Positioned directly above its vulnerable spot, Del commands Derek to leap down with his spear, utilizing his electricity-emitting quirk to deliver a potent attack. As Derek's strike connects, Han and Silence arrive on the scene. Knut informs Han the bastard has been paralyzed. Han swiftly turns to Silence and delegates, "I'll leave the rest to you." Silence acknowledges the command and uses his blink ability to leap into the air. Simultaneously, he unpins a grenade and hurls it directly into the deathworm's mouth, which Knut is still grappling with. Recognizing the imminent danger, Han urgently shouts to Knut, "Dodge the explosion." As the explosion erupted inside the deathworm's mouth, it screamed in agony, momentarily incapacitated by the intense blast. Silence, floating high above, utilized his blink ability, enhancing his speed as he descended. With a precise strike, Silence swiftly decapitated the death worm, severing its head from its body in one clean motion. However, Han quickly observed that despite being decapitated, the death worm's body continued to writhe and move towards its severed head. Realizing the danger of reattachment, Han urgently exclaimed, "The body is moving towards the head. We can't let it be reattached." In response, a local soldier driving an army truck took charge, declaring, "Leave that to me. I'll push it off the cliff." With determined resolve, he maneuvered the truck to the edge of the cliff and used its momentum to shove the death worm's thrashing body over the precipice, shouting, "Die, you fucking pest." Meanwhile, another soldier approached the severed head of the death worm, aiming his weapon and opening fire, intent on finishing off the creature. He scornfully remarked, "Disgusting bug. I'll grind you into powder." Han, realizing the soldier's impending danger, shouted urgently, "Don't do that, move away from there." However, before Han and Knut could intervene, the death worms had retaliated swiftly, attacking and engulfing the soldier in a sudden. Del exclaimed, "Shit, these stupid amateurs. They should have just stayed put instead of interfering." As the wing emerged from the pupa, Han observed the wing and noted, "It has reached its third form." Turning to Del and Silence, he commanded, "Prepare for an aerial fight." Just as they prepared, a death worm hatched from its pupa and began to fly away. Han realized the danger and said urgently, "It's escaping. If we lose it now, it's going to cause more casualties." He swiftly instructed Del, "Put up the air bits." Del deploys Airbit, a device that grants Han the ability to maneuver through the air effortlessly. Utilizing this newfound agility, Han draws closer to the death worm. He uses his pistol to launch a hooker type of projectile at the death worm, striking it successfully. Han then seizes the rope attached to the hook, using it to propel himself towards the creature at high speed. Infusing his spear with psychic energy, Han delivers a powerful and precise strike to the death worm. He declares defiantly, "The ground is more suitable for bugs like you." As his successful attack landed, both Han and the death worm begin to fall from air. Witnessing this, his teammates shout Han's name in concern and worry. At Ark, researchers conducted tests on Koro to gather psychic readings under various conditions. During discussions, some researchers acknowledged Kuro's exceptional abilities even among A ranks, speculating that becoming an S rank naturally might require external stimuli. They referred to Kuro as a potential unawakened S rank. After completing the tests, a female researcher approached Kuro and commended his work, asking if there was anything he'd like to eat. Kuro declined, stating that he would prefer to rest. She said, "I understand. All right. Then let's return to your dome." Kuro thinks her kindness is fake. "Her attitude will change as soon as I become useless." She adds, "The test schedule is nearly over. You'll advance to level 3 soon." Looking outside through the glass, Kuro thinks, "Level 3. I'm going to protect you now, since I have the power to do so." Meanwhile, as the death worm and Han plummet from the sky, Han relentlessly attacks the death worm. With each strike, he weakens the creature. Both crash to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to erupt. As the dust settles, the death worm lies motionless on the ground, while Han remains unharmed. Surprised, Han looks around and finds an airbit that saved him from the fall and injury. He thinks, Del saved me. His teammates approach him, worriedly calling his name. Knut and Dmitri check on Han and ask, "Are you all right?" Han responds, "I'm fine." He then turns to Del and thanked him. Del, looking a bit nervous, angrily turns around and says, "Goddamn local soldiers. I won't leave them alone. They revived the bastard we nearly killed. Are they really soldiers?" He starts moving back. Seeing Del, Knut asks, "Why is Del always angry?" Silence types, "It's his character flaw." A few days later, a researcher is giving a presentation. This is a report on Kronos, the dragon whose fossil has been recently discovered. It seems to date back to the Cretaceous period. As such, there have been numerous speculations regarding the origin of the dragons. Alexander Quarry interrupts, "Enough about the origin of dragons. You can do that sort of research to your heart's content after we manage to fend off their invasion. What's important is that, thanks to that fossil, we are now able to produce a greater number of dragon weapons and psycho frames. Why don't we skip to the part about the oracle?" The researcher replies, "We're planning on awakening her." John, shocked by the news, stands up abruptly and turns to Alexander Quarry. He demands, "Is that the commander's order? Isn't it too early?" Other soldiers quickly move to restrain John. One of them says, "Hey, Red, calm down. What kind of insolence is this?" John retorts angrily, shouting, "Shut up. We still don't have a cure." Another soldier shouts, "Shit. Calm him down, everyone. Hold him down," as they struggle to contain John. John shouts using his psychic power, "Get lost, all of you," pushing them away. Alexander Quarry approaches John and punches him squarely in the face, knocking him back, saying, "Get a hold of yourself." John read, "Are your feelings more important than the cause? Bahamut and Kronos, everything we've faced was unexpected. What if the dragons attack us ahead of schedule? What then?" he demands, glaring at John. John, still reeling from his outburst, closes his eyes and then reopens them. He says, "I'll cool off in solitary confinement." Alexander shakes his head. "There's no need. It's not like I don't understand how you feel." A few days later, in the Level 3 cafeteria, soldiers are abuzz with discussions about the oracle. At a dining table, the Izzy squad gathers. Kuro shares, "It's a rumor that's been circulating amongst the soldiers lately. I heard them saying the oracle has awakened." Derek leans in, curious. "Is that the person with the ability to foresee the future?" Knut nods. "Yeah, I heard he awoke pretty recently." Dmitri, about to ask if Silence has seen the oracle before but eyeing Silence's tray full of sweets, exclaims, "You bastard, how can you eat all of those things?" Just then, a girl with blue hair enters the cafeteria, immediately drawing everyone's attention. Soldiers whisper among themselves, "It's the oracle." Knut, hearing the commotion, turns around and asks, "What's with all the noise?" The oracle glares at the staring soldiers. "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a human before?" Knut, taken aback, says, "That must be the oracle. I can't believe she's a girl." Derek responds, "Well, most of the psykers from our generation are male." Silence, while eating, notices Han nervously looking toward the oracle, thinking, "She looks so young, yet she's from the first generation. She seems to be 20 at most. How old was she during the war?" Silence glances at the oracle and thinks, "I don't like that lady." John intercepts the oracle, blocking her path. He demands, "What do you think you're doing here?" Flustered by his remarks, she retorts, "I received my permission to be outside. So why do you care?" John shouted back, "It's probably just a permit for a casual stroll, you idiot." He snatched her cigarette, adding, "You're going to smoke as soon as you're out. Are you out of your mind? You must have a death wish." Using his psychic quirk, he burned the cigarette into ashes. Grabbing her hand, he started pulling her out, saying, "Shut up and follow me, you dumb bitch." She shouted, Let go of me. Who do you think you are? As they left the cafeteria, the soldiers looked on in confusion. Knut remarked, those two are seriously brutal. What has she done to be picked on by Sergeant Red? Han thought, no, Sergeant Red actually likes her. A little later, John was searching frantically for the oracle, muttering curses under his breath as he wondered where she had gone off to. Unbeknownst to him, Oracle observed from a hiding spot behind a nearby wall. Meanwhile, in the underground testing area, Octo meticulously checked the details of the upcoming training session. With an air of excitement, he turned to Han and exclaimed, "Are you ready, Han? This is going to be our first monumental training session." Han stood poised in the testing arena, grasping his spear tightly while adorned in the second-generation psycho frame. As Octo activated the psycho frame, Han focused his psychic energy into it, marveling at the immense power he was about to wield with the second-gen psycho frame. On the other hand, Oracle seethed with anger at John's attempt to control her movements, muttering to herself about his loyalty to Ark. Meanwhile, Octo announced the completion of the training session, and Han, visibly exhausted, breathed heavily and sweated profusely from the intense exertion. Octo, clapping his hands, approached Han with admiration, remarking, "You move incredibly well for your first time. I knew I picked the right guy. Let's keep this momentum, Han." The upcoming test shouldn't be a problem either. Curious, Han asked, "What test?" Octo explained, "Sooner or later, there will be a demonstration in front of the people concerned. Let's prepare to the best of our abilities and show them what we've got." Han used a cloth to wipe off his sweat, then turned to Octo and asked casually, "You're pretty close to Sergeant Red, right?" Octo nodded and clarified, "Are you talking about John Red?" Han continued, "Do you happen to know anything about the Oracle? I heard she has awakened recently. Was she in a state where she couldn't move her arm freely?" Octo's expression shifted slightly, sweat appearing on his face as he responded, "The Oracle was cryopreserved. It cost us as much as building a single psycho frame, but the Oracle's ability is well worth the money." Intrigued, Han pressed further, "Why was she cryopreserved?" Octo revealed that some individuals who awakened their psychic powers suffered from psychic overexposure, which caused their bodies to slowly turn to stone, ultimately leading to their deaths. The Oracle, despite being in a similar precarious state where she could potentially die at any moment, unexpectedly Oracle appeared behind Octo. He was startled by her sudden presence and asked why she was there. The Oracle replied that she had come to ask Octo for a favor. Octo inquires about a favor. Oracle requests a game console, expressing extreme boredom and a desire for entertainment. Describing the desired game console with specifics, a central screen and buttons on the side. Octo asks where to locate such a game console within Ark, questioning the reason for doing so. Oracle grabs Octo by the shirt and shouts at him, emphasizing Octo's role as a tech expert and demanding that if Octo doesn't have the game console, he should create it. Octo responds incredulously, questioning the logic behind Oracle's demand. Oracle notices Han nearby and reacts with an interest. She approaches Han, grabbing his arm, and comments on Han's physique, marveling at his developed muscles despite his young age. She expresses amazement and possibly envy at Han's muscular development, questioning the fairness of it. She suggests a private conversation, indicating a desire to discuss something important. Octo gives permission for Han to accompany her, indicating that Han has finished training for the day. Octo secretly instructs Han to quickly remove her from the scene, expressing disdain for Oracle's assertive personality. Oracle overhears Octo's whisper but dismisses it, urging him to focus on making the game console. They begin to leave the building together. Once outside, Han asks Oracle about the topic she wanted to discuss. She acknowledges Han's awareness of her condition, confirming that time is limited and that her appearance has changed. She expresses a desire to find happiness, and whatever time remains and proposes escaping somewhere far away with Han. After Han's statement about leaving, there is a brief pause in the conversation. Han decides to leave, implying a lack of interest in continuing the conversation unless she has something important to say. Oracle stops Han and comments on Han's lack of humor, mentioning that John has also noted this trait in Han. Han acknowledges that she was aware of something about Han. Oracle activates her psychic abilities, enveloping Han in a red aura and touches Han's head. She confirms knowing about Han's situation and expresses a desire to share something important. She continues to use her psychic powers and delivers a serious message to Han. She advises Han to cease involvement in a certain operation if Han wishes to survive. She emphasizes that she is conveying this information because Red cares deeply for Han. Han asks the Oracle if she has seen his future, to which she ominously replies that she cannot see it. She explains that this usually indicates death, as the dead have no future. Han, undeterred, responds with a determined expression, challenging the Oracle's fatalistic outlook. He suggests that if the outcome is only true in most cases, there must also be a chance of survival. This assertion surprises the Oracle, prompting her to ask for clarification. Han turns away, expressing gratitude for the warning but asserting that he has always lived with the awareness of his mortality. There's a palpable absence of hesitation or fear of death in Han's demeanor, which catches the Oracle off guard. The Oracle, visibly affected by Han's resilience and resolve, also turns away, reflecting on her past encounters with John. Her thoughts are interrupted by a surge of frustration and anger. She shouts out, suggesting that if Han wishes to challenge fate, he should be prepared to live and die like a dog. After the scene shifts to helicopters heading towards Ark, John, Silence and Han stand together on the ground. John breaks the quiet by remarking that it's been a month since soldiers were sent out to eliminate the purists, and they've just returned to Ark. With a serious expression, John delivers the news that Laoka was killed during the operation. Han and Silence react to the news with shocked, but Silence is particularly saddened, visibly trembling as he turns away and leaves. Han attempts to stop him, but John intervenes, suggesting that Silence needs time alone and may withdraw into his room for a while. John acknowledges Silence's veteran status, but notes his emotional vulnerability. Han expresses disbelief, feeling as though Laoka might still be alive somewhere. He questions John about his own reaction, feeling less sorrow than he expected. John responds, acknowledging Han's resilience and uniqueness, implying that Han has survived not by becoming hardened by their harsh environment, but by remaining true to himself. Han's expression becomes somber as he reflects on John's words. John turns away, signaling him to let go and that he need to focus on an upcoming important test. Han begins to follow John, reflecting on advice he received from Johnny in the past about keeping his emotions intact. At the underground test area, Han stands in the arena, wearing a second-generation psycho frame, while Octo and other officers observe from above through protective glass. Octo addresses Han, expressing hope that he feels well and advises him to approach the test calmly, similar to their training sessions. Han confidently replies that he's not nervous, suggesting Octo's impatience makes him uneasy instead. Smith interjects, dismissing Han's chances of success and criticizing him as an attention-seeking individual who isn't capable of handling such advanced technology. Meanwhile, others comment on the second-gen psycho frame, admiring its futuristic appearance and likening Han to a cyborg. Octo activates the psycho frame, initiating the test for Han. Han reassures Octo, urging him to trust in his abilities. Internally, he reflects on the pressure to perform well and prove himself worthy of the project. He acknowledges the difficulty of the task, understanding that even basic movements like walking, running, and jumping are challenging with the advanced psycho frame technology. Observers, aside from Smith and Alexander Lecory, marvel at Han's movements, expressing surprise at his apparent ability to control the psycho frame effectively. They comment on the difficulty of such precise maneuvers, indicating their skepticism about the technology's usability. Octo chuckles in response to the observer's remarks, possibly indicating pride in Han's performance. In contrast, Smith's expression darkens with anger, displeasure and frustration with Han's unexpected proficiency. In the midst of the test, Han remains focused, believing he's progressing well toward the final stage where he must hit a target with his weapon to complete it successfully. However, unexpectedly, Han is struck by a cannon blast that knocks him off balance, causing him to drop his spear and fall to the ground due to the impact. Witnesses react with shock and disbelief at the intensity of the cannon's power, questioning whether such force was necessary. Octo, concerned for Han's well-being, asks if he's all right. Han reassures Octo that he's fine, explaining that the suit absorbed the impact, but he's surprised by the unforeseen attack, which wasn't part of the planned test. Octo curses under his breath, realizing that the cannon was likely being installed by Smith, whom he refers to as a troublesome old man. He urgently asks Han if he can retaliate against the source of the attack, and can he destroy it. Han channeled his psychic energy into the psycho frame as the cannon began firing once more. With swift movements, he dodged each attack before leaping high into the air. Stepping onto the ceiling, he utilized a ceiling jump to approach the cannon at high speed, exploiting its blind spot. With great force, he landed a spear attack that not only destroyed the cannon, but also the floor beneath it. After Han's unexpected success in the test despite the adversity, onlookers are stunned, their eyes wide with shock at the outcome. Octo, in contrast, is jubilant and loudly praises Han, shouting his commendations and calling him the best. Han, exhausted and at his limit, acknowledges Octo's praise but expresses his physical strain. Octo assures Han that he'll come over to assist him immediately, his laughter indicating his excitement and satisfaction with the results. Later that night, in a meeting room, Alexander Lacouri commends Octo for exceeding expectations, acknowledging the success of the test. He promises to review Octo's additional budget request. Octo, smiling to himself, believes that with this achievement, the prototype is now rightfully his. Meanwhile, Smith appears flustered by the turn of events, possibly perturbed by Han's success and Octo's potential gain. As Alexander begins to move on to the next agenda item, the meeting is interrupted by a game-like voice announcing attacks. Alexander humorously asks John to intervene before the situation worsens his migraine. John requested Oracle to cease distracting and stop playing game, but she persisted despite his plea. Eventually, John took action by swiftly seizing the game console and forcefully smashing it on the floor and breaking it. He firmly instructs Oracle to focus on the meeting, emphasizing the seriousness of the discussion. Oracle reacts angrily, questioning John's expectations during what she perceives as a dull meeting. She dismisses the importance of the psycho frame technology being discussed, showing her disinterest and frustration. Alexander Lacouri intervenes, addressing Oracle directly and acknowledging her concerns before posing a critical question about the future. He refers to the unexpected appearance of Bahamut, hinting that such unforeseen events could recur. He asks Oracle if her visions of the future remain unchanged. After a brief silence, Oracle's expression shifts to sadness as she reveals her vision. She predicts the rise of a new dragon leader, foreseeing a devastating scenario where a city burns and its inhabitants perish. In the tense meeting aftermath of Oracle's chilling prophecy, everyone present reacts with shock, visibly standing up from their seats. Alexander Lacouri directs his attention to Oracle, urgently pressing for details. He asks when and where the predicted catastrophe will occur. Oracle reveals that the event is set to unfold in 10 days in Paris, specifically mentioning the Eiffel Tower. John, furious and feeling betrayed by the delayed disclosure of Oracle's vision, demands to know why she didn't reveal this information sooner. Alexander Lacouri, now fully grasping the gravity of the situation, slams his hand on the desk in a show of urgency and shouts that immediate action is necessary. John forcefully pulled Oracle by her hand, dragging her despite her protests and complaints of pain. He led her into an empty room, which he opened and then entered with her. Once inside, John threw Oracle into a corner, his face visibly angry. Oracle, looking nervous, watched as John closed the door. In a fit of anger, John gritted his teeth and demanded to know what her problem was, questioning why she hadn't mentioned anything about the dragon invasion earlier. Oracle shouted back, expressing her indifference to the rest of the world. John, frustrated, told her to stop acting like a child and reminded her that she wasn't the only one making sacrifices. He pointed out that even the second-generation kids, who were only 12 or 13 years old at most, were risking their lives. Oracle retorted, "So what?" which left John shocked. She continued sarcastically, questioning the notion of sacrifice and expressing how it didn't comfort her at all. Oracle then broke down in tears, questioning why she should sacrifice herself when she wouldn't live to see the next invasion. She lamented that at least others had hope for a peaceful future after defeating the dragons, whereas she had no future at all, despite her ability to foresee it. John's expression darkened as he responded, "Because you are a good person." He then began to move away from Oracle. Meanwhile, Oracle wiped her tears and walked in the opposite direction, bitterly muttering, "What a joke, you fucking imbecile." A few days later, ARC forces arrived in Paris. Izzy's squad also landed and began moving towards their allocated rooms. Hilt remarked on how refreshing yet strange it was to see such an unscathed city now evacuated and resembling a ghost town. Dmitri turned to Del and predicted the city would be in ruins in about 7 days, to which Del agreed. Han reflected on the Oracle's premonition that a dimensional gate and a dragon would appear in Paris in 7 days. This significant event, occurring in an untouched city, had drawn the attention of special forces and elite units from around the world. Meanwhile, a muscular squad, all carrying machine guns, with American flags on their armor, approached Izzy's squad. As they got closer, both squads stopped and began staring at each other. The leader of the American squad asked, "Are you the psykers from ARC? Could you please get out of the way, little friends?" Dmitri chuckled and responded, "The road is pretty wide, so why don't you step aside?" In response, the leader of the American squad asked, "Aren't you guys magicians? Why don't you fly over our heads?" All the members of the American squad started laughing. Dmitri became angry at their remarks and said, "You bastards, try to approach them." Han intervened and stopped Dmitri, saying, "Don't fall for their provocation." Han then asked, "Who are you? Judging by your looks, you seem to be from the USA. The squad leader introduces their team as the American Grand Minion Elite Squad, also known as Hellboys. They are soldiers who have undergone physical enhancements but lack psychic abilities. The squad leader mocks Han, suggesting without his psychic abilities, he would be insignificant among regular soldiers. Han brushes off the comment with a sarcastic remark. He gathers his team to move out. The American squad leader dismisses them, calling them scrawny nerds. Dmitri casually exchanges words with the American squad leader before both squads head in their respective directions. The other squad continues to arrive in Paris. Shortly after, Klut and Han enter their room. Klut is amazed by the luxurious room and enthusiastically jumps on the soft bed, commenting on its comfort. Han also admires the softness, wondering if it's silk and realizing what luxury feels like. Klut opens the freezer and finds a variety of drinks, joking about their appeal. Han declines a drink, indicating he doesn't need one. Klut enjoys some chocolate, marveling at how it melts in his mouth, then asks Han to translate the French writing on the wrapper. Han humorously admits he doesn't know French either. Klut playfully opens the door and announces he's going to steal more chocolate from other rooms, believing other soldiers might not appreciate it. Han warns Klut not to wander around, citing the presence of various troops aside from ARC soldiers. Klut jokingly disregards Han's advice, asserting he isn't the squad leader on this mission. Han sighs at Knut's typical behavior and decides to study a city map on his pad, focusing on memorizing major building locations for tactical advantage. He recalls advice from Loker about preparation leading to victory in battle. As Han hears the door open, he assumes it's Knut returning but finds Oracle entering his room unexpectedly. In Han's room, Oracle asks Han, please just let me stay like this for a moment, which surprises Silence, who just entered Han's room. He abruptly leaves the room, feeling uneasy about Oracle's intentions with Han. Meanwhile, Dmitri confronts the American squad leader on the roof, taunting him for bringing his squad along. The American leader assures Dmitri they won't interfere, provoking Dmitri to declare he won't use his psychic power that he is so worried about. Both agree to begin their confrontation. Silence waits for the elevator, feeling uncomfortable after witnessing Oracle in Han's room earlier. Deciding to get some fresh air on the roof, he enters the lift. Knut returns after stealing chocolate boxes from other rooms and notices Silence leaving. Meanwhile, Dmitri attacks the American squad leader, but his punches have no effect on the soldier's enhanced body. Dmitri adjusts his strategy, noticing the squad leader's defensive stance, and continues to attack with frustration as none of his punches seem to land effectively. In that moment, American soldier grabs Dmitri's fist and pulls him closer, attempting to punch Dmitri in the face. Dmitri uses his head to block the punch, resulting in a cut and bleeding on his head. Despite being injured, Dmitri rushes towards the extended arm of the soldier. Unexpectedly, Dmitri employs a joint lock on the soldier, threatening to break his arm unless he surrenders. This surprises and flusters the soldier. The soldier swings his arm forcefully, causing Dmitri to lose his grip and crash to the floor. The impact is severe, causing Dmitri to vomit blood. As Dmitri tries to recover, the soldier attempts to stomp on Dmitri's head with his foot. Dmitri manages to dodge this attack by jumping backwards. Dmitri, realizing the danger, decides to fight seriously and undressed himself by tearing his shirt. Dmitri noticed someone behind him as he acted, and in the moment Silence moved towards the American soldier he was fighting. The American soldier, facing Silence, warns him to move and expresses concern about potential injury. The soldier then tries to grab Silence. Silence, feeling annoyed and wanting to retaliate, uses his psychic powers to fold the American soldier's finger. This causes immediate pain, prompting the soldier to straighten his finger in response. Enraged by Silence's actions, the soldier calls him a bastard and attempts to punch Silence. However, he deflects the punch with his left arm. Silence retaliates with a powerful 1-inch punch on the American soldier, causing him intense pain. The soldier falls to the ground, clutching his stomach. Witnessing this, another American soldier nearby shouts for others to intervene. They rush towards Silence together. Dmitri, observing Silence's power and the ensuing chaos, becomes shocked by what he's witnessing. Knut arrives at the scene where the confrontation is happening. He comments that Smo wasn't weak, rather, Silence is exceptionally strong. Dmitri turns to Knut and asks about Smo. Silence successfully defeats the two soldiers who attacked him. However, he refrains from harming the other soldiers, who are visibly frightened by his power. Observing Silence's prowess and the outcome of his confrontation, Dmitri expresses doubt about his own ability to defeat Silence in combat. Meanwhile, Han reflects on recent events. The Oracle, entering Han's room, warns him about participating in a dangerous operation. She emphasizes that Han could die and offers to relocate him to safety with a single command. Han expressed that he thought the discussion was over. Oracle warned that a dragon was about to appear, emphasizing the danger and noting that he was too young to die. The Oracle experiences a psychic overexposure at that moment. This overwhelms her, causing her to collapse to the ground. Han, witnessing the Oracle fall, rushes to her side in concern. He asks if he should call medics immediately, expressing worry for her well-being. Despite her condition, the Oracle reassures Han that it's nothing serious and requests to rest in Han's room for a while instead of seeking immediate medical assistance. Han, reflecting on the situation, considers whether the oracle's collapse was due to psychic overexposure. He ponders the severity of her condition, fearing that the survival rate might be extremely low in such cases. This marks the conclusion of the 5th part of the 2nd season of this manhwa. The 6th part of the 2nd season will be uploaded soon. To show your support for the channel and help speed up the release of recaps for your favorite manhwa, please consider subscribing to the channel. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.